Oh, is it all right if you turn on the recorder after we make our introductions?
Well, yeah, I think we'll see how many people join, Jonathan. We may not have the opportunity to um, give everybody an introduction, but it looks like we might be.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just introduce myself before turning off the camera. And hey, everyone. So when you guys did the introductions, I realized that maybe it was my co-founder and CTO who should be doing this, but I will do my best. So bear with me if I can't answer all technical questions, if there are any. But yeah, so my name is Marit. I am the founder and CEO of Strise. We are a technology company in Norway, and it was a research project originally that was the question was, how can you use knowledge graphs to analyze unstructured data across languages and in real time and at a large scale? And that evolved into Strise, and we are now helping large enterprises making decisions around their customers. We call it a decision-making platform. And I wanted to just quickly go through a presentation, and then I'll show you a demo. Unfortunately, a lot of the demo or the content in the demo is in Norwegian. I didn't have time to put up an English one, but hopefully it will do the trick for you. Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So as I was saying, we are using AI and knowledge graphs to empower people at large organizations who every day work with making decisions involving customers or suppliers. Because at large enterprises, there are so many processes that requires information. Typically, we work with a lot of banks, and they have to onboard new clients, and you want to know, is this a company that we want as a client? Are there signs of anti-money, or are there signs of money laundering, or are there any big credit risks? Should this be our next customer? Which of my customers should I contact today? These are all really important questions that needs to be answered every day, and the answer to that doesn't necessarily lie within a CRM or ERP that has a outdated data model and hasn't changed for years. The answer to all of these questions lies in the vast information that you can find online. And Strise is all about taking that information and making it useful across the enterprise. And we have, instead of creating a system that, created by developers that's supposed to integrate with other developers who are again going to take it and turn it into a product, we have decided to really wrap all of our knowledge graph and our big data processing platform into a web interface. So the data goes straight out to our users and not separated by layers of IT consultants and management. And as I say, it's all about helping people make better and more informed decisions every step of the way. And as you said in the beginning, that's about not outsourcing, but having more data management over to a service provider. In some ways, you could say, yes, that's what we do, because we already have a lot of data. So when a customer wants to start using Strise, all we need is just a list, an export. It could be as simple as a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet with a list of their customers. And then we upload it to their system. And then the very next day, they can log in and get everything they need. So this is the new paradigm that we want to see happen instead of the old paradigm, where you buy your Salesforce or whatever software, it comes empty, there's no data, you buy your consultants who then, again, put in the data, the same data that everybody puts in, and then you have 2 years and 2 million project and 50% chance of failure. We want to change that and really get so people can start using software from day one. And the only way of doing that, as what we believe in, is having a system based on a knowledge graph, such a bulletproof data model that can just change as fast as the world changes. So I thought I would just going to show you a quick demo, which kind of touches upon my second question on the slide: onboarding or due diligence. Is everything okay, or should I move this customer into enhanced due diligence, which is, it's a job that a lot of people actually have. So typically you have a portfolio of customers and you want to know, has anything shady happened? Is there any signs that we should look more into this? Particularly in the EU, it's probably the same in the US. I don't know. There's a lot of regulations around anti-money laundering for banks. Yeah. So this is Strise. It's a web-based interface, and it's actually just a one-page app for now with different views. But here's the inbox. It's a concept. You log in, and here's overview of the customers, let's say in your portfolio that you are in charge of.
Marit,
Yeah?
I'm still seeing your slide.
Oh, thanks. Let me see. I think I need to reshare. How does this work? Yeah?
Got it.
So you log into Strise. So imagine you became a customer of Strise yesterday. You uploaded your customer list, and today, or the hour after, you log in, and this is what meets you. So let's say I am in charge of figuring out is there anything I should do with these companies. So it's the inbox. Here are the companies in my inbox. I can click. I can drill down, get more information about the CEO, the board, etc. I get all of the financials. I can compare this company to other companies. And again, this is a perfect task for a knowledge graph, because it's really, really hard to know actually what is a similar company to a company. But if you have a graph structure and you're able to bring in the world's information, then you suddenly can start answering these challenging tasks. Again, as well, if you are into ontologies and knowledge graphs, I'm sure you know the power of just being able to really show ownership structures in a graph. It's that's really powerful. You're able to see every single flag on a beneficial owner or a person, if there's ever been anything across the entire. Someone received a lot of governmental grants in Corona times, apparently. Through the entire organizational structure, and it's really easy to just click your way around. And this is ontology. This is just having a I can click on a person, I can see all of their related people, their historical roles. I can see all of the companies that they are involved with that has some sort of incidents, etc. I can see all of the events that has been part of this person's all of the events related to this company, all of the events related to their subsidiaries. I can get the full picture, and I can also perform, for instance, an audit risk if that's what I'm interested in. So that is actually the demo for that particular question. Actually, it's all about just doing something super complicated and bringing it into just bringing the data together so a human can actually make the assessment in a much simpler way. And we see that for a lot of our customers, they're saving a day or per company onboarded by using Strise compared to 40 tabs in Google and 3 specialized systems. And yeah. And the great thing is that if you are involving, for instance, as I showed you, there's a lot of processes involving sales and new customers or credit, etc. And depending on your business and on the company that's relevant for you, gets personalized to you. So that's also something that we see, that having an ontology-based big data platform, it actually enables people to break data silos, because I think one of the I think it's quite rare that people who work on the risk side, for instance, for the CFO or in that line, actually can use the same sort of tool that someone in sales does, because usually that will be completely separate data silos, but now they are actually starting to, they're using the same system, because all of the data is there already. It's just about personalizing it to you. Yeah, and that's a big point that I actually missed. I'm so sorry. That here you can see, for instance, for this company, they changed their managing director. This is what this means, which we have picked up. I can press, yeah, that's relevant for me. Or for instance, if this was not relevant for me, and then the system learns, so it can be trained on very little training data since it's ontology based. So, you know, it's as a salesperson, you can get a specific type of information, and if you are working with due diligence or credit or whatever, you get another set of data. So again, back from this customization regime to a personalization regime, even on enterprise software. And again, that's all due to having the knowledge graph as the core of the system. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that, if that's okay.
Yeah, and some questions about other related capabilities. For example, I think you could give us an overview of what kinds of sources are available, and is it possible for customers to bring in their own sources and essentially build their own subgraph, for example?
Yeah, good question. So, well, in terms of, okay, the data in the system, well, as the knowledge graph itself, as you all know, we started out with Wikidata, as I guess a lot of other people do as well. And then it's about filling in the gaps where that is lacking, in terms of particularly when it comes to corporate data, etc. But, you know, that gives us the, you know, map of the world that a computer understands, like. And then we then bring in all kinds of, and you know, as the beauty of having Wikidata as the starting point, it also really empowers you to do stuff on a language agnostic manner. So you're working with the entities and not the text. So that has enabled us to really bring in content from any kind of language. And right now we have 7 different languages, or process content from 7 different languages, and we see that all of our, let's say, machine learning classifiers, etc., they work across languages. They can be trained in one language and then just reapplied on another, and that really works because it's all, again, back to the entities. And then it's really all kinds of sources that we find. We buy a lot of Firehose sources, typically, you know, news data, and then we integrate with like public announcements or these types of sources, the like legal system for the English word escapes me, but like legal system data. We acquire some financial data. We scrape some data ourselves. We've started adding like import, export data as well, which I think will be really cool, because then you can also see, for instance, on a company level, that's in. Now I'm just taking an example out of the blue, but for a company that is in the steel business, then we can detect a decrease in steel as an import to Norway, for instance, let's say, and that could be a signal as well. That will say something about the health of this business. Yeah, so we started with that data. We do have some ISO data, like figuring out if a company has an ISO standard. Yeah, just all kinds of data that we want. And again, it's super easy to add data sources. And then we do have companies bringing in proprietary data into our into Strise as well. So that's possible too. And then they, of course, that will be proprietary to them. It's typically just extending the graph with their data, and then that's private. That particular extension is private to them. But yeah.
So I know you're focused primarily on financial services, but is there
Yeah,
a
that, or it's, yeah, that
roadmap
was our
for
first.
other verticals as well, or?
Well, it's yeah. So our first segment was banks, and then we expanded into more of the general financial services, and then we have customers in multiple verticals now, because it turns out that it's not just banks who are super interested in following on other customers, and we have also gotten some new customers in the like mid-market SME segment, which is not something we expected, but they are using it for portfolio monitoring, prospecting, credit, these kinds of things. Yeah. So legal, we have some in the construction industry, like construction consultancy. We have in staffing, like recruitment, and we have in what's the like a chemical producer, like a company that produces chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and a renewable energy company actually as well. Yeah, these are the segments that, yeah.
So you have a wide variety of sources that those folks are interested in, I take it. How many total sources are you up to now? Maybe I overstated it, but
maybe I think it's like 160,000 different sources, and or something. Maybe it's more now. But think about it, like one newspaper, the New York Times could be one source, and then the Norwegian legal system can be one source, and then the Swedish something. So one source can also be very narrow and rather big as well in terms of content volume.
So can you give us a sense for how this is managed from an infrastructure perspective? And I know it's
I would
university, and just an overview of who does what and how long has it taken to get to this point?
Yeah, sure. So here I am not I don't have the best. I'm not the most skilled in this area, but if anyone was interested, like we have this Google Cloud case study and a Google Cloud podcast evolving our infrastructure. So obviously everything is hosted in Google Cloud, and it's everything is auto scaled in Kubernetes. It's a pretty big system right now. It's yeah. Our graph, the knowledge graph itself, we are now maintaining like 22 million entities in that one. It also, yeah, we pay a lot of money to Google Cloud every month. And I think in terms of infrastructure,
what's your headcount on your side to manage it from your end? And to try
we don't have any dedicated DevOps. Everyone is like a backend. That's split between everyone, since everything is auto scaled in Kubernetes. We have this this scaled environment for also committing code and production, etc., and a pretty solid infrastructure around everything, machine learning, etc. as well. So no, we don't have any DevOps, and we are, including our interns, we're 8 full-time people on tech, including 2 people who do like QA. like AI trainers who help out with creating some data sets and just, you know, although I would like to think computers are super smart, they have a tendency of making some errors as well, particularly when it comes to semantics. So yeah, we have, or 1.5 person on QA, actually. One is just part-time, and then 6 full-time on tech. Yeah. But we have spent a lot of resources. I think it was a great thing coming out of the university and we didn't really have, it started out with, oh, this is really cool technology, we should do something about it. And that gives you some time to just, you know, focus on building great infrastructure, right?
Yeah, and I'm sort of thinking for comparison purposes, I'm thinking in terms of Refinitiv, which we may have discussed before, the spin-off of Thomson Reuters. And
yeah, I think we talked about it before.
Yeah, and if folks are familiar with Thomson Reuters or LexisNexis, for example, there's a lot of staff and headcount associated with curation and developing or refining the sources in some ways. Do you have any of that sort of requirement or need, or I mean, in terms of, you know, a lot of that is sort of associated with their legacy, their heritage, but I'm curious about the usability of the sources as they stand and how people can take advantage of them.
Can you just explain to me what do you mean with usability of the sources? Because I'm not sure I get that.
Well, if you're not, let's say that you don't have the context on the data source, it's not fully described or delineated. It might be taking some time to actually get up to speed on how to get that source into the fold in terms of, you know, your needs. And in general, people are seeing this panoply of integrated sources, I'm assuming. And so if you're diagnosing some issues or wondering about, you know, following your nose to find a problem, are people running into those issues versus something that's very well curated?
Well, I'm okay. Again, not sure I fully understand, so my apologies for that. But I think in terms of, well, we do have a very solid models or handling of relevance, the concept of relevance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there are a source that comes into our system which is deemed irrelevant, and it usually is pretty good, it's really easy to, it's all about filtering out irrelevant stuff, even though it might be about the right company or etc. So that we are pretty good at. So yeah.
So Marie, maybe I can try and rephrase Alan's question and probably ask an entirely separate question in truth. It's about provenance would be my question. If you've got 160,000 sources, how do you tell me where this individual fact came from, so I can understand the context of it and put my own weighting on the truth of it?
Oh, that's just, well, maybe I didn't pay enough attention to it in the demo. We do have, you can click on every single event and kind of see where it comes from and deem it relevant or deem it yourself as well.
Does that answer your question, Ben?
Well, yeah.
You have a follow-up?
Well,
yeah, you can just see the origins of the original data, you could say.
Yeah, sure. I guess the follow-up I have is, you know, when I was working in the legal industry, there was a lot of concern, say, sharing their client lists with a third party. In many cases, that would be an absolute no-no. But are you able to allow me to effectively connect to your endpoint and not share my data with you, but read from your endpoint?
So, well, in terms of getting, so we work with several banks and and also other firms. It turns out, even though people are concerned about sharing client lists with third parties, it turns out that almost every single business on earth, even banks, have an exception in their customer contract saying, hey, we can't share that you're a customer with ours if that provides a better service for you again. And so that's usually one of those things. And also, I guess you're familiar, have heard of GDPR in Norway or in Europe. So it's yeah, so we've just spent time on that as well and just making sure we're compliant. So it's actually not if you sell to some larger firms, it just usually takes like a little longer time because it needs to be checked off with someone. But so far, all of our like standard contract we haven't run into that issue.
Okay, maybe it's something that's a bit more unique to the legal industry and the way that it's regulated.
Yeah, that could be.
Good question, Ben.
But,
others, I want to open the floor up to questions from Merit, and you know, I'm sure you're curious about certain aspects of this platform.
Was that a question for me? I'm not sure. I'm
trying to see if others on the line have questions to you about the service.
Yeah, I'm really sorry not being able to answer, but if anyone was interested, there's this, it's quite old now, but like it's a Google Cloud podcast and a case study. So yeah. But it was cool. It was Google who reached out to us and like, hey guys, what are you doing? You're very few people and use a lot of cloud resources. Can you please tell us what you're up to? So that was fun. So it ended up with a case study and a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael Uschel, I see you've been able to join. Did you hear the demo and the presentation? Were you able to hear most of it? Were you on? Others at Semantic Arts, any questions or comments about what you just heard?
Alan, this is Greg Sharp. I'm not with Semantic Arts, but I did enter a question in chat there.
Let's see.
And I think it may have.
Oh, okay, here we go. So Greg says, is the personalization feature built upon the user selection of items of interest, driving the creation of a user profile that filters the experience, etc.? Marit, if you can click on the chat bubble in the right-hand corner, you should see the question.
Okay, I'll see. Oh, there it was. So personalization, that's built on a lot of things. So first of all, I'm not sure if you saw it, but you can, as a user, you can deem something, this was relevant for me and not relevant for me. So that also is quite complicated, but because let's imagine a piece of content that mentions 3 different companies, and for one company it's relevant, for another it's irrelevant, for the third one it's irrelevant. So that's the first problem, being able to do like entity specific relevance. But the personalization feature, the reason why it's sort of feasible and it works is that, let's say I am a user and I have spent some time doing, oh, this was relevant for me, this was not relevant for me. The feedback our system gets, it's not, hey, this particular piece of content was not relevant for me. It's about, I am a user in this type of role, and this type of company, which has all of these dimensions, has this type of event that has all of these dimensions, and it's not relevant. So that data is really valuable because, again, it's not necessarily specific only to me, but it can be used for another similar type of user who is deeming something similar, a similar event for a similar company also as irrelevant, which means that you need so much less training data. And again, this is all back to the knowledge graph, because you have all of these dimensions that you can then train on, or you can use. So yeah. So then so then also, again, this personalization is really built on really high level features, right?
Right. And sometimes the difficulty with personalization and in services that have this sort of capability, they don't really have a good model of the different personas, the different roles that are out there. And, you know, industries have lots of different roles depending on the industry. And, you know, then you find yourself sort of stereotyped. If you're in a particular role that you're interested in some other things and you wear another hat, the system wouldn't necessarily bring it up. So I think, Greg, is that sort of what you're getting at with the question that you posted?
Yeah, so I mainly was just curious whether machine learning or NLP was being sort of applied in that decision making. From your answer, it sounds like it's more of a graph algorithm or a recommendation engine that's kind of driving the personalization process.
Yeah, because all of the, let's say the NLP stuff, that's been deployed to figure out, think of it in like a higher, that's more low level abstraction to figure out, okay, what's the entity? Is it relevant? Is it about this? Is it these kinds of things? But the recommendation engine itself, once you're able to do that with NLP, then you can do it on a much higher abstraction level, which simplifies it and makes it also transferable. So you can transfer sort of knowledge that one user did to a similar user. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Greg. Other questions from folks? Anything you're curious about? It's just an informal gathering here. Anybody can ask a question.
I'm curious about how things get customized for new clients, new industries, new types of roles that are that you want to cater to. How do you decide what data to bring in, and like how does that get tailored to the needs of specific clients?
So again, it's all super simple, because all we have, since we are gathering all of this information about in our graph, when a new company becomes a customer, they just give us their customer list, we upload it, they log in. We already have a lot of training, like base training data, so it's all of it, the general irrelevant stuff is turned off. And then I forgot to show you in the demo, but we have this, you can go into setting and just like apply a few things and to you if you want, but it's not really necessary as well. It's really, you can just log in the next day and it will be pretty good, and then you can help train it a little bit more and then apply some topics or some classifiers. If for instance you only want, if you're an KYC anti-money laundering person, or and you only need to know about are there any of our 40,000 customers who are dealing with blacklisted countries, you can apply the blacklisted countries model. But besides that, it's very just plug and play.
Do you have cases where somebody gives you their customer list and there's a company on their list that you don't have any data about, and what do you do then?
So, well, I guess if, let's say, as of now, we only have Nordic customers. So if a US company were to become our customer today, we probably wouldn't have all of the US customers, all companies, right? Because then you need to acquire that corporate list from somewhere. And then we would also just reroute a lot of our English or US content to kind of pick up on those entities. So that's usually the process, how we've done it.
Does it ever happen where you've got some data on a company, but a client says, we actually really need to know this particular bit of information about that company? And how do you go about, where you've got some gap, that there's some kind of information?
Yeah, so, well, good example, the other day it's actually a few months ago, one of our clients was like, hey guys, it's really great, but you are lacking this source, which is really important to us. And then we just added that source.
So good question, Stephen, and I just wanted to follow up. Do you have different kinds of clients that, for example, want more customization generally? Are you working on the custom side of things a lot with some clients?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Do you do some custom work for some clients?
No, we haven't yet.
Okay, so you
But as you can, like when we started out with sort of a we started out with like a few pilots, and then we basically created a lot of the features, you know, the things we thought or the things they wished for, and that turned into this product. And now it's now we don't. It's just it's too complicated to do that, right?
Mhm.
But since we are still a young company, like our customers' feedback, if they have like, hey, we want this, and then as everyone like prioritize it, and yeah, maybe we should do that.
Do you have, and what's your partnership strategy in terms of companies that can help you out with certain things? Are you partnering with others who can augment your capabilities?
Yeah, so we are of course partnering with some, with other data providers. If someone has data that we really want to crunch through our system, definitely. So we've done that, and we do. Well, I'm not sure if maybe it's actually just a customer, but one of those, you know, large the large consultancy firms, the big five. I can't remember what the term is, but the large one who has the auditors and yeah. But when I thought of it, maybe it's not be a partnership, but yeah, we would love to partner with other companies for sure.
Okay.
But we have mostly done it with just data providers, yeah.
To date, it's just been data providers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, would love to do more of that actually.
Yeah. Well, this has been really interesting. Are there any other questions? We can sign off and give folks back some time, perhaps, or if there are other questions, we're happy to stay to the bottom of the hour.
Can I follow up on adding new data sources?
Yeah, and again, if I can't answer, I will be happy to put you in contact with our CTO, because this adding data sources, I'm feeling that I'm not answering all of your questions, but yeah.
Sure. Let me try, and if you don't know, yeah, thank you. So when a new data source gets added, how do you make sure that the IRIs for the important bits in the new data line up with the IRIs from all your other data so that they can snap together?
What does our IRR mean?
Just the identifier for, say, the company or the person or whatever. How do you make sure that when I bring in new data about this company, it gets the same identifier as the identifier for the company from my other data, so that I have one way to talk about the same thing across all these different sources?
Very good question, which I probably can't answer satisfactorily because I don't know, but it works. I don't know. And we also have, as a 1.5 person on QA that helps out with tests and so forth if this occurs. But I guess it's just all about knowing a lot about your entity, so it's no problem sort of mapping one knowledge or one ontology to like our main knowledge graph. Or if it's a new one, make sure you know it's a new one so that's get added correctly. I'm not sure, but yeah. If you're really interested, you let me know and I can set you up with Patrick, my CTO.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if others have any interest in
I think actually we are posting a blog post about exactly that, the entity stuff, very soon. So yeah, then you can read about it there as well.
Super. And if there are other links that you'd like to share with the group, Merit, please just send those over to Melissa and me, and we'll be happy.
Yeah, sure, I will do that.
Yeah, because I think it's responsive to some of the questions that we've had today. So thanks so much for the overview. Really interesting stuff. Thanks everybody for taking the time to join. If there are no other questions, we'll just sign off for now and let everybody get back to what they were doing before.
Thank you so much.
Likewise. Good seeing you all, and we'll look forward to the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.